Isn't that precisely what he had to do to reinforce the barricades before the hard wars ahead by extending his support from just the conservatives into the mainstream?
No. The mainstream conservative agenda gave him 49 states out of 50 just a short time ago. This president is making the same fundamental mistake that Richard Nixon made in 1973 and 74 when he was being attacked by the liberals in Congress. He tried to appease them. He said, you want Jerry Ford as your vice president? I'll give you Jerry Ford. You want Legal Services Corporation? You want more funding for the Great Society programs? I'll give it to you. He tried to feed the alligators, hoping they would eat him last. Those characteristics of human behavior you reward, you reinforce. So the more liberal programs, policies, personnel he gives them, the more he's going to encourage his opponents to attack and criticize.
Ralph Nader, what do you say to that?
Well, first of all, I think Richard is going away from the subject this evening. If he wants to talk about Reagan's domestic and foreign economic policies with huge deficits, federal deficits, budget deficits, declining family income, recession in 25 states, you see, that's not the issue tonight. Tonight is, will the Reagan presidency survive? Is it able to continue to govern even if a number of subordinates in the White House resign or are fired?
But now he's got this mainstream guy as his chief of staff.
My point is simply this, that the institutional process of investigating this enormously intricate scandal is just beginning. And Reagan is in very deep trouble already. He has been defending himself by saying he can't remember and that he's forgotten. That's what's called, you know, the disability defense, presidentially speaking. But now all it takes is for any kind of memo or any kind of testimony by subordinates who've been given immunity to say, I told Ronald Reagan in the Oval Office on a certain day, and he told me this.
Hall is going to bring down the president, are you?
No, wait.
Hey, can I say something?
No, let me just finish. The point is this, that it's not just a matter of whether there's illegality, and there is. It's not just a matter of whether he's in control of the presidency, and he isn't. It's a matter of whether he's pursued policies so offensive to the American people that 3 weeks ago in a national poll, they put him below in terms of trust of auto repairmen, below. And he knows it now. And that's the question of whether we can afford in the United States with all these problems a president who basically cannot govern and does not have the trust of the American people anymore.
Ben, what do you say?
I am, Geraldo, I'm stunned trying to figure out which position I'm hearing is more bizarre. I told you what I thought of Ralph Nader's position. The idea that Richard Viguerie is calling Howard Baker a very liberal Republican is simply preposterous. He was majority leader of the Republican Senate. He is not very liberal. He is mainstream, moderate, conservative Republican. And the idea that a thin sliver of the right wing of the Republican Party is the Reagan constituency, they didn't elect Ronald Reagan. You know, 60% of the American people elected Ronald Reagan. And that includes people like Howard Baker and a lot of other people. And if you're going to try to appoint a government where everybody marches in lockstep to Richard Viguerie, and if you don't, they go out and try to mug him, you are going to be, as Viguerie and some of his pals have been, extremely destructive to a man who is in some general sympathy with him. I think...
Now, Ben,
Ralph, Richard, let me just figure. You know, some of the appointments that Reagan has made, even since this fiasco blew up, you look at the appointment of Frank Carlucci, who's a tough man and has appointed some very, very tough foreign policy minds on the National Security Council, people like Jose Cersano, who worked for Gene Kirkpatrick. The idea that he is going to sell out his own ideology is bizarre, unless you think Ronald Reagan is a think. Viguerie, is that what you think?
Ben, I think that, you know, usually I agree with you, but it's a little preposterous for you to say that Howard Baker was not positioning himself to run as the most liberal Republican in the race in 1988. His number one issue, he said, was America must have tax increases. He campaigned for the giveaway of the Panama Canal. He was the leading Republican for the giveaway of the Panama Canal in the 1970s. He opposed everything in the Reagan agenda. I didn't interrupt you. Let me just say that this man...
There are no liberal Republicans. We should do this as a mud wrestling match.
Okay. Let me weigh in. I know Howard Baker, and I've observed him and studied his record. And by comparison with the people that Mr. Reagan surrounded himself with, particularly in the first term, you might say that former Senator Howard Baker is more liberal. He is more broad-minded. He's more deliberate. You can't talk about him as an ideologue. And I think Richard Viguerie is absolutely right in saying that he has lost his access to the White House the moment Howard Baker becomes chief of staff.
But by the same token, he hasn't opened up the doors to you, Ralph.
First of all, I think he's willing to listen to all sides. But I think the
won't
issue.
That save him? Won't that save him ultimately?
No, it won't.
That's the point.
It will
won't
not.
This mainstream chief of staff shore up his
no,
support
let me say
because the issue is not what Howard Baker is going to do for Ronald Reagan in the next few months. The issue is what Ronald Reagan and his subordinates were involved in the last 2 years. And let the record be clear here.
You know, let the record be clear. We've got to take a commercial break, so I'm going to call timeout right now. A spirited debate, 3 different points of view. I told you, very different points of view. We'll continue the debate. Give us a call. Get involved. We'll be back in just about a minute.
Guess who's going to land the sexiest man alive? Pam Dauber. And this week's People tells about Pam and her life before Mark Harmon. People celebrates people, like Fergie's crowning achievement as world's first Flying Duchess. Then People brings you Oliver Stone, writer-director of the ultimate war movie, Platoon. Plus, Lenin's Assassin, Part 2. How to order this 120-page Hollywood history issue, and so much more. Week after week, People celebrates people. This week, The Secret Life of Pam and Mark.
I enjoy walking. A long hike is relaxing and helps me keep up with my grandchildren. It's all part of taking care of myself, like Tylenol for aches and pains. I was first given Tylenol in the hospital. You know, Tylenol is the pain reliever hospitals use most. I've been using Tylenol ever since, and it's never let me down. Only now I use Tylenol caplets because I find them so easy to swallow.
Trust Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most.
I can't believe it. In just 1 week, I lost enough weight to actually see the difference.
SlimFast is making a pledge. Give us a week, we'll take off the weight.
I used SlimFast for breakfast and lunch. It was delicious, and in just 1 week, I lost weight.
The SlimFast plan can live up to its pledge because each shake is a nutritious, low-calorie meal.
My husband didn't think I could lose the weight.
Boy, was I wrong.
The SlimFast pledge. Give us a week, we'll take off the weight. Also try delicious SlimFast nutrition bars.
It's 16 minutes past the hour. Good morning. I'm Susan Rook. Here are some of the stories making news. There was a shootout last night between Miami police and a drug suspect. The suspect was killed and 2 officers wounded. Last night, the suspect attempted to buy crack cocaine from undercover officers. The shootout started when the suspect tried to drive away, running over 1 officer and striking 3 others. 1 officer is in critical but stable condition. The others suffered less serious injuries. Residents along the northeast coast of Florida are wrestling with a major oil slick this morning. The oil spill extends up to 30 miles long and has washed ashore. The oil came from a freighter that ruptured its fuel tanks. Florida Governor Bob Martinez declared a state of emergency along the coast of Duval and St. Johns counties. Well, former Senator Howard Baker is in and Donald Regan is out as White House Chief of Staff. Baker, the former Senate Majority Leader, accepted the White House post yesterday after meeting with President Reagan. The move comes 1 day after the Tower Commission released its report on the Iran arms deal. It blamed Reagan for the chaos in the White House. The Baker appointment drew instant praise from Congress. A decision is expected later this morning in the case of accused Lebanese terrorist George Ibrahim Abdallah. The French prosecutor called on the court Friday to convict Abdallah. He is accused of orchestrating the murders of an American and an Israeli diplomat, but the prosecutor also pleaded for a light sentence to avoid possible terrorist reprisals. A storm that dumped as much as 5 feet of snow on the southwest is moving to the east, dumping more snow in its wake. In Rapid City, South Dakota, up to 2 feet of snow has brought travel to a standstill. Interstate 90 was closed for nearly 90 miles by snow drifts. Snow also covered parts of New Mexico, Colorado, and Arizona. Those are some of the top stories. I'm Susan Rook. We'll be back in just a few minutes with more news. Now, let's go back to the Larry King Show with guest host Geraldo Rivera.
Sitting in for Larry King, who's in the process of healing down in Washington. Let me reintroduce our guests. In Miami, we have Richard Viguerie, the conservative leader. In Washington, Ralph Nader, the consumer advocate, and Ben Wattenberg of the American Enterprise Institute, a syndicated columnist. Ben, aren't you surprised, frankly, that Howard Baker, Senator Baker, would take a job with a president who is not only a lame duck, but a wounded duck at best?
Well, I never thought he was a lame duck. I thought he was a soaring eagle, and I think he's now a wounded eagle. And let me tell you something about Howard Baker and what I think is going on. When Donald Reagan took the job, he said, I am the prime minister. He made the same mistake that Ralph Nader's making. He thinks we lived in a parliamentary democracy. And of course, we have no prime minister in this country unless you have a man like Ronald Reagan who really does a lot of delegating. And then, if you have a very smart fellow, he can sort of be de facto prime minister. But if you have a dumb fellow like Reagan who goes around saying, oh, me Tarzan, I am the prime minister, then he automatically cannot be the prime minister. Now, Howard Baker is a very smart man. He knows how the system runs. He knows the issues foreign and domestic, and he knows the Congress. Now,
so why did he take the job?
He took the job because de facto, he really may end up being the prime minister, and the evidence of that will be if anyone asks him, are you going to be the prime minister? He says, are you kidding? I'm only the chief of staff. There's no prime minister. Ronald Reagan is a president who gives out vast blocks of power to his associates, and if you have a responsible guy and somebody who knows what he's doing, like Baker, he can have a very fulfilling 24 months doing a great deal to run the country.
Richard Viguerie
and we have some enormous issues before us.
All right, don't get to the issues. We know we'll get to the issues. That's a different story. Richard Viguerie in Miami. Let me just ask you: do you think this is a run for the White House, if not from the back door, from the basement office of the Chief of Staff by Senator Howard Baker?
Well, he doesn't need to run for president. I think he got it the easy way. He got appointed president. It's clear that this president doesn't like to exercise a lot of power. He likes to basically delegate it, and as Ben said, if Howard Baker plays his cards right, in essence, he will be the president. So why go to all the chicken dinners for several years and the Holiday Inns that bothered Walter Mondale? He's going to be president in effect for the next 2 years.
I didn't say president. I said prime minister.
Well, the way this president operates, you're basically the president. He regularly
asks... President Reagan becomes the king, the monarch, the symbolic
head. That's basically what it looks like.
Look, wait a minute. Let's not get silly.
The president had one chance to save his presidency, and that was to appoint as chief of staff somebody who shared his views and would daily challenge... Paul Laxalt would have been great.
He turned him down.
Secretary of Interior, Don Hodel. There's any number of people who could have taken that job and daily challenged the Democrats on the issues.
Richard,
let me just mention real quick, daily issue orders like abolishing affirmative action, deploying SDI, getting tough with Nicaragua, challenging the Democrats on the issues. You'd have driven them up the wall. They'd have put this story on a back burner. Ralph Nader would have had to be dealing with some important issues of state, not something irrelevant like what the president knew and when he forgot it.
All right, let me ask Mr. Nader that. If Howard Baker is successful in cleaning up this mess, or at least in putting it in some perspective where the president does not appear centrally, knowingly, intentionally involved in something illegal, don't you think the presidency will survive? Don't you think the notion that you raise will become increasingly obsolete?
No, Geraldo, because that's not Howard Baker's job. Howard Baker's job is to deal with policy issues and with Congress from today until the future. The past is what's going to plague Ronald Reagan. He presided over a White House which was involved in general policy directions, committing crimes, bribes, payoffs, illegal diversions, in secrecy, flouting congressional dictates, violating procedures, sidestepping the CIA, the State Department, the Defense Department.
So you think
he cannot erase that past, no matter what a genius Howard Baker turns out to be, and that past is now being investigated by formal officers.
Guy.
Wait a minute.
Wait, I know you cover. You're a sensitive guy. You're a compassionate guy. What would you do if he just said, "Listen, folks, not only were mistakes made, but I was responsible for them, and I'm real sorry. You know, I'm a grandfather. I'm a nice guy. I got less than 2 years in office. Give me a break. I'm sorry. I mean, aren't the people of this country even-spirited enough, fair-minded enough, compassionate enough just to say, okay, hey, listen, I made mistakes in my life too. Maybe I'm not president, but I didn't kill anybody."
Well, nobody's sending him to jail, you know. Nobody's impeaching
Hey,
him.
we're resigning from the presidency.
No,
you sound like you'd like to.
He has seriously damaged the stature of the presidency of this country. He has seriously violated constitutional, statutory procedures. He has not paid attention to his job. The White House press corps has been making jokes about Reagan like he takes so much time off, he shows his friends slides of work. You cannot have a president set a legacy like that for the future politics of our country and simply get away with it by saying, gee, I'm sorry, I wasn't up to it, I forgot, they did all this in the White House under me month after month, worldwide conspiracies and wheeling and dealing,
Ralph,
and I'm sorry.
Wait, let me take a call. I want to see what some of the people think and what they want to know. So why don't we just go to Athens, Ohio, and see what their question is and to whom they direct it. Go ahead. Athens, you're on the air. Hi.
Yes, ma'am. Sir, I have a question or a comment to make from to all the gentlemen here.
Okay.
I think the Tower Commission is one of the biggest whitewashes since that unfortunate Warren Commission thing on Kennedy's death. I also have a comment to make to Mr. Nader. There haven't been too many things in the past that I've agreed with you on, sir, but I agree with you wholeheartedly what you're saying tonight. Unfortunately, there are not enough Americans who are having the word, and I don't think that 60% of the people are behind Reagan now.
But you think the president should resign, Athens, Ohio?
Do I think he should?
Yeah.
I think all the facts and everything should come out.
But do you think the president should resign?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
If indeed the facts do come out, I think Ronald Reagan will be forced from office. And also, I'm appalled at at some of the Republicans who are trying to whitewash this thing.
Okay.
The American people are not fools.
Okay. Ben Wattenberg, what do you think? Is this thing going to cost the president his job?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm sitting here listening to the caller and listening to Ralph Nader, and what they're saying essentially is that the president did something that they disagreed with, that they think was bad for the country. I happen to think that that certainly vast parts of it were bad for the country. It was a cluck play. It was a boner. It was a beaut. But, you know, as Senator Tower said the other day, every president makes mistakes. Now, to say, I mean, what Ralph Nader is talking about, there's a term in political science which I believe would describe a plebiscitary democracy. In other words, that at any point when the president does something that you don't agree with, you go to the people and say, you know, give him the hook, and out he goes. That's not the way this democracy runs. You elect a president for 4 years, and you know he's going to make some mistakes, and he's going to make some good calls. And the same people that Ralph Nader is saying were making fun of Ronald Reagan and a Teflon presidency and slides during the daytime is the same people were saying, you know, it's Ronald Reagan who brought respect back to the presidency and showed that a president can still lead this government. And in point of fact, although I have disagreed with a number of things that Ronald Reagan has done, that's what those same people that Ralph was talking about were writing and saying. You ought to read some of those editorials and columns.
Ben, how can you say that? Mr. Reagan believes that the Iranians were involved in the blow-up of the U.S. Embassy and the destruction of 241 Marines. He then turns around in a secret operation full of all kinds of movements of money and payments and payoffs, etc., and selling arms to that regime. So now wait a minute. You don't have to be a Republican, you don't have to be a Democrat, you don't have to be a liberal or conservative to be outraged at that kind of behavior.
Okay.
And that's why his...
let us stipulate that I am outraged, because I happen to be outraged. So what? I mean, he is saying, I'll tell you what he is saying. He is saying I was trying to make an opening to Iran in order to make Iran not a terrorist state and to deal with those leaders. I think it was a dumb play. It made some sense in the beginning, but if you're going to say every time... Excuse me, no. If you're going to say every time that the president does something that outrages Ralph Nader, we have to try to drum him from office in a kangaroo court, that's preposterous, Ralph.
Guys, we've got to go to a commercial break.
He should have done it constitutionally.
Ralph, we got to go to a commercial break. All right, we'll finish that sentence when we come back from a commercial break. We've got to break away for a couple of minutes. Give us a call, 212-714-7810. Get involved in a stimulating debate.
You are about to become reacquainted with a magazine you grew up with. A magazine that's known for its extraordinary photography. A magazine about people, about history and the future, about laughter and pain, and growing up and growing old. A magazine, in short, about life. All it takes to have life delivered to your home for the next 12 months is just 4 easy payments of $7.97 each. With your subscription, you get Life's special issue, We the People, about the U.S. Constitution. Plus, if you order now, we'll send you free with your paid subscription, Life's elegant designer telephone, featuring an on-off ringer switch for total privacy and automatic memory that redials the last number you call. So call 1-800-621-2800 toll-free and say, I'd like to subscribe to Life. For the pictures only life can capture, for the stories only life can tell. Call 1-800-621-2800. We're waiting for your call.
Should your name be on this envelope? It should if you or someone you love is age 50 to 80, and it will be addressed to you if you call now for this important information. Free information about a life insurance policy designed especially for men and women age 50 to 80. Life insurance with no physical examination and no medical questions. You cannot be turned down regardless of your health or for any reason. And your premium will be $6.95 a month and will never increase. Colonial Penn Life Insurance Company wants to send you the important information in this envelope, and it's free. So if you're age 50 to 80 and thought it would be difficult to buy life insurance, shouldn't you call now? Here's the number.
For free information in the mail, call 800-257-1257. This is a free call, 800-257-1257.
The big issue: has the President of the United States been, in a political sense, mortally wounded by the Iran arms scandal? The specific question I have for Richard Viguerie in Miami now is, do you think Vice President Bush has been a tower of strength, supporting his boss, standing by his side throughout this scandal?
Without question. I'm sure he's been very supportive of the president. He's been a good, loyal, faithful vice president. I'm not sure how the vice president is going to be able to have a serious chance to be nominated, because as much as Republicans and conservatives and most people in the country don't share Ralph Nader's views, that I'm surprised you think that. I'm sorry. I'm surprised you think George Bush has been supportive. I think. Oh, I think certainly voiced words of support, occasionally he says, "Well, I might have not agreed with this or that." No, but this man, I disagree with the vice president on issues, but I think you have to recognize that he's been very supportive of the president for these last 6 years, and including these last few months. But I
think he's more electable or less.
Oh, I think he's less electable because he is attached so closely to the president that when the president's cut, George Bush bleeds. And I think that the American people, as glad as they are, they've had these 6 and now soon to be 8 years of Ronald Reagan. They want to move on to the next level, to the next plateau. They're looking for something new, and I think that they're not going to be looking for somebody who is so closely tied to Ronald Reagan. They're going to look to perhaps a younger generation with some new and different ideas. And the vice president hasn't distinguished himself in any issue way from the Reagan administration. I think it's going to be very tough for him to get the nomination. And
Let's take a call now from Pasadena, not California, Pasadena, Maryland. I wasn't sure there was a Pasadena, Maryland, but Pasadena, you're on the air. Hi.
Yes, I have 2 comments.
Okay.
2 questions for all 3 of your panelists.
All right. One at a time.
Number 1, do you think in the second 4 years of the Reagan presidency, through the guidance of his wife, he was looking more towards how he would go down in history as being a president of the United States? And number 2, the president seems so determined to stop the leaks there for a while, a few years back, that he was contemplating having government employees take the polygraph test. And if he wants to bring this all to a head, do you think it would be right for him to take a polygraph test now to get his involvement clear and out in the air?
All right, let's put the First Lady's involvement aside for a second. Ralph, what do you think? Should the president volunteer to take a lie detector test?
No, I don't.
No, I don't think they're reliable in the first place. I don't think anybody, the federal courts don't permit lie detector test evidence in their tribunal.
So you don't think the president should make a beau geste, say, okay, guys, grill me.
No, I think he should be interviewed. He should be, in effect, subjected to a deposition under oath, of course.
Okay, what about the other question?
Hold on, just let me say.
Who's that, Ben? Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, it's Ben. I mean, the president may, if he wants to, I guess, depose under oath, and he has been interviewed by this Tower Commission.
Right.
But, however, you know, there is a document, I'm surprised Ralph didn't bring it up, it's called the Constitution of the United States. And the president alone of all Americans, there is a procedure to go after a president, and it's called impeachment. And if that's the road you want to go down, then go down it. But that's what the document says.
Ben, that's one procedure. The special prosecutor...
That's the only one that's legally binding on the president, Ralph.
No,
what about the involvement
what
of
he
the
should
lady?
do. He says he wants the truth to come out. We're saying what he should do.
Oh,
that's
fine.
all.
Okay, I have to agree with that. That's okay.
What about the intriguing question, not so much, well, the caller framed it as looking forward to history and how he would be remembered, but the larger question is the involvement of the First Lady as a political operative in all this, for better or worse. Let's ask Richard Viguerie first.
Well, you know, every president has got to come into office realizing that he's going to have an opportunity to play a major role in history, and he's got to be focused in how the history books will record his administration. I think this president was bordering on being a great president. And the events of the last few months, I think, have perhaps removed that opportunity.
What about the First Lady's involvement, Rich?
Well, I think that obviously this First Lady is very involved, but I don't know that she's involved for the right reasons. I think she's involved for reasons of style, perhaps, and not of substance. I don't think she is ideological. I don't think she's trying to make sure that the Ronald Reagan's views are implemented particularly. I think she's more worried about style, and I wish she would be more focused in on the substance of the
administration. When you say style, do you mean her own personal style? Or
no, well, how the president is perceived, how he comes across on on television, and I think doesn't seem to be a lot of focus on the First Lady from a substance standpoint.
So you think she's very negative
on the issues? But I think that if the president is well liked and he has a liberal administration, that the First Lady gives the image that she would be satisfied with that. If the president were unpopular with much of the country, but he was doing the right things, the things that he had devoted his adult life to promoting, I think she should be focused on that, not whether he is popular or not, but is he popular for the right reasons? That's important.
Let me take a call from Hayward, California.
Yeah?
Hayward, California. Hi, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, how you doing?
Good, great, thanks.
My problem here is, my question here is, why are you comparing Nixon to Reagan? You know, I feel that itself isn't a crime. You know, what Nixon was involved in was dirty politics and a crime, and he deserved to be impeached. What Reagan did was try and get some Americans out of a country that's in turmoil. I mean, regardless of what he does and how he does it, I'm supportive of him.
What about that? Ralph Nader, I think you're the guy to answer that question. What about that point, that what he was trying to do, listen, what if you were the boss and the hostage families were coming to you and saying, please get my father, my husband, my son out of this dreadful place where he's being tortured and God knows what else. I mean, how would you react? I mean, wouldn't you try and do something to help him?
First of all, we'd want to do it above board, constitutionally, and through diplomatic channels, State Department, whatever. Second, he said he said he was not trying to sell arms to the Iranians in return for hostages. He was trying to do it to support moderate elements in Iran. Thirdly, it can be very persuasively argued that when you put a reward, when you try to pay people who've taken hostages or their intermediaries, you're just going to make it even more attractive for more hostages to be taken. And of course, people in the Reagan administration have made that point.
Wasn't he trying to do the right thing? Wasn't he trying to do the noble thing? You know, even if it was opening up contacts with moderates in Iran, whatever that is, weren't the hostages really the bottom line by anyone's accounting? Wasn't he trying to do the right thing?
Well, first of all, he denies that it involves the hostages. And second of all, it wasn't just the Iranian issue. It was a diversion of funds. The Nicaragua-Contra thing was involved. There's now questions as to the extent to which government procedures and departments were shoved aside by the National Security Council, whether the Boland Amendment and other congressional strictures were violated. See, it isn't just that one thing, and he knew. Wait a minute, he knew all these things were involved.
You know,
Ben, you get 15 seconds to sum up, and then I'll give Richard 15 seconds.
Well, Ralph Nader keeps talking about this vast list of criminality. It's almost like Joseph McCarthy going on saying, I have a list here in my pocket. Where's the beef, Ralph? What are you talking about? What laws did Ronald Reagan break?
The Boland Amendment?
The Boland Amendment is an extremely complicated statute.
He broke his own procedures in the White House, Ben.
But that's not a crime.
Okay, now, Richard,
Let me say that Ralph Nader and his liberal allies are playing with fire. They're not going to be happy till they bring this president down. If they're not going to be careful here, they're going to seriously damage the presidency. We've got some adversaries out there, the Soviets, that are trying to take advantage of this situation here. And we better be worried about the presidency here, because we've got some serious problems in this country. If we listen to the Ralph Naders of the world, we're going to seriously damage this country here and our relations with our allies, with our adversaries.
Richard Viguerie, conservative leader in Miami, thank you. Ralph Nader, the consumer advocate, and Ben Wattenberg, thank you, fellows, for joining us. Thank you for your opinions, eloquently stated, although admittedly divergent. We change pace dramatically. A bounty hunter, a modern-day bounty hunter is our next guest, not a politician. He's got an interesting story to tell, so stay with us. We'll be right back.
Behold the beer belly, the old spare tire, the Labanza. 50 million Americans need a shortcut to get from fat to flat. And here it is. It's called the Gut Buster. It's the ultimate fitness machine, specifically designed to firm and flatten the stomach as nothing else can. Just watch this easy exerciser turn ordinary sit-ups into fat-burning, tummy-tightening power stretches. Just slip into the stirrups, curl your fingers around the molded hand grips, and row your way to a trimmer U. And ladies, if you're as serious as he is, that flat stomach you had in high school can be yours again. Minutes a day is all it takes. Basic spring-ups like these work the upper abdominal region. Reverse for tension-assisted high risers that exercise lower stomach muscles. This sturdy unit travels easily, so you can exercise anywhere, and it's yours with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So go ahead, Gutbusters, if you're serious. And you're serious about a flat stomach, just pick up the phone and exercise your right to call toll-free now.
To order your Gutbuster, call 1-800-257-1257. That's 1-800-257-1257. Use your credit card to avoid COD charges, or send check or money order for $19.95 plus $3 shipping and handling to The Gutbuster, P.O. Box 8250, Atlanta, Georgia 30306. That toll-free number again is 1-800-257-1257.
It's 19 minutes before the hour. Good morning, I'm Susan Rook. Here are some of the stories we're following. Former Senator Howard Baker has a busy weekend ahead of him. Baker replaces Donald Regan as White House Chief of Staff. President Reagan made the appointment Friday, but reportedly offered Baker the job just hours after the Tower Commission report was released. That report blamed Regan for chaos in the White House after the Iran arms scandal broke. Most Republicans and Democrats are praising Baker's appointment, saying he brings instant credibility to the White House. In Miami, one suspect is dead and 2 police officers wounded this morning following a shootout during a drug sting. Last night, the suspect attempted to buy crack cocaine from undercover officers. Shootout started when the suspect tried to drive away, running over one officer and striking 3 others. Witnesses say the 2 wounded officers were caught in the crossfire. 2 women are in jail in Paterson, New Jersey. They're charged with running a sex and drug ring involving very young girls. Tammy Thomas and Gloria Walton were arraigned in court Friday. They're accused of getting girls as young as 10 hooked on crack cocaine. They allegedly forced the girls to sell their bodies to get more of the highly addictive drug. Police say up to 12 young girls were involved in the prostitution ring. Well, the terror is over in Orlando, Florida. Trapper John Tanner caught a 7-foot alligator that had been loose in the city's underground drainage system. He lured the reptile into a noose by playing the mating call of a lady alligator. Radio listeners paid $400 for Tanner to release the gator back into the wild. That's how much money he would have made if he had sold the gator for his hide and his meat. Those are some of the headlines. We'll be back in less than an hour with another news update. Now, let's go back to the Larry King Show.
Wanted, Dead or Alive. Remember that old TV show starring Steve McQueen as a hard-eyed, soft-hearted bounty hunter tracking down desperados? Well, these days, most bounty hunters are, in fact, private investigators looking for bail jumpers, hoping to get a fee from bail bondsmen. Some of those still have at least a touch of star quality, and our next guest, California bounty hunter Ralph Papa Thorson, is one of them. Welcome, Mr. Thorson. I should tell you at home that Papa is currently hard at work tracking one of the nation's most wanted men, a guy named Claude Dallas. He's the fast draw artist who gunned down those 2 game wardens and then escaped from prison. How's that case looking, Papa?
Well, so far it's not looking too well. He escaped last Easter and we haven't caught him yet.
Why did you decide to take that case? You say you're getting close. Why? What do you know? What do you know? If you're getting close, what's going on?
Well, originally I had contact with some of the people that he knew, and I took the case basically because I thought perhaps I could talk him into giving himself up, but it didn't work out that way.
So are you still on the case?
Oh, yes. Matter of fact, I made a very, very important call today that may well have solved the case.
May well have solved the case. What do you know that the cops
located
found?
him.
Where is he?
I do have. Where is he? If I told you that, he'd probably hear it, and then he wouldn't be there.
Maybe he doesn't have cable.
That's quite possible. Yeah.
Now, tell us what do you? The cops have been on the case really for months and months. He's one of the 10 most wanted men in the country. Doesn't it seem sort of far-fetched that one bounty hunter working for basically a reward would know more than the mass of federal, state, and local law enforcement officers, all of whom have a special axe to grind in the sense that he gunned down the 2 game wardens who are, in fact, law enforcement officers themselves?
Yes, it does seem a little ridiculous, but it's a funny thing. If you have 100 people trying to do one job, everybody thinks the other guy's taking care of every little nitpicking detail, and it winds up that nobody takes care of it.
Have you been successful in breaking some of the cases that the traditional law enforcement has not been able to?
Oh, yeah, most of the time.
Tell me one you're proudest of.
Well, I'm really not proud of any of them. I just go around and beat the bushes and knock on doors and do plain old simple investigative work. There's nothing very glamorous or exciting about it. Matter of fact, you can work 5.5 months on a case and there isn't a darn thing at all exciting about it until the exact moment of apprehension, and then you have about 30 seconds of a great deal of excitement.
Yeah, I can imagine. How'd you like being portrayed by Steve McQueen in that movie? Do you think it was accurate?
You don't
look exactly like old Steve. But
no, I don't look quite like him. I'm actually a little more handsome.
Yeah.
But no, I love Steve. Steve and I were friends for years, and the movie was a Hollywood thing, as most movies are. You know, it had very little to do with reality.
Okay, let's talk more about things that do have to do with reality. We have to take our last commercial break. Papa Thorson, a modern-day bounty hunter, is our guest.
Got a VCR and a taste for high adventure? Prepare to take off on the most daring air missions of World War II. Your first target, Schweinfurt, deep inside Nazi Germany. In range for our bombers, but not their fighter escorts. You'll face the Luftwaffe alone. More bandits coming up from the tail. 6 o'clock. Approaching EIP. The Schweinfurt ball bearing plant. Crucial to Hitler's war machine. A mission as costly as it was daring. And just one episode in the videocassette Air War Over Europe. Only $4.95 when you subscribe to the award-winning series World War II with Walter Cronkite, produced by CBS News. Walter Cronkite covered the war firsthand. In Air War Over Europe, He brings it home to you with nearly 90 minutes of rare footage, including missions over Hamburg, Peenemünde, and the Ploeste oil fields. In later cassettes, you'll hunt down Germany's most feared battleship, the Graf Spee. As the Wehrmacht retreats, you'll race to secure the last bridge into Nazi Germany. And just months after Pearl Harbor, you'll strike back at Tokyo. Take Air War Over Europe for only $4.95, $45 off regular price. Keep it. Then about every other month, collect another high-quality cassette for $49.95. You always have 10 days to return any cassette for a full refund. No minimum to buy, cancel anytime. So if the action gets too hot, you can always bail out. Experience Air War Over Europe on your own VCR. Here's how.
Credit card holders call toll-free, 1-800-441-2929 to get your first cassette for $4.95. That's 1-800-441-2929. Or send check to CBS Video Library, Department 850, P.O. Box 1111, Terre Haute, Indiana, 47811. Positively no CODs accepted.
Saturday, an all-star cast searches for a legend.
There's gold there. All the gold in the world.
And one by one, the stars drop out. Gold fever. The buzzards know it kills. Edward G. Robinson, Omar Sharif, Gregory Peck. McKenna's Gold, the Superstation Hollywood Classic. 11 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning.
Our guest, Ralph Papa Thorson, a modern-day bounty hunter. And we have a question for you, sir, from Toronto in Canada. Hi, Toronto, you're on the air.
Hi, yeah. What I wanted to ask, not so much about the Dallas case that Papa's after, but more about, I wonder if he's aware that in the last little while, a number of bounty hunters who have come up to Canada to take people back over the border have been arrested and put on trial and convicted for kidnapping.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, there was a recent case just last week where two bounty hunters coming up from Texas were given 15 months and 12 months in jail for kidnapping someone who, you know, because they didn't go through the proper extradition process,
right.
They ended up on trial.
Is what you do legal, Papa? Could you go to Canada and grab somebody?
No, not in Canada. We don't have any jurisdiction any place except in the United States.
But doesn't a person have the right to fight extradition in state courts as well?
Not if he's on bail and forfeits the bail.
Really? So you really can cut a lot of red tape then? You can operate more simply, more efficiently than the law.
Right.
Doesn't that also mean that you can? Doesn't that also mean you can abuse a person's constitutional rights, though?
Anybody can abuse any right he has, but any legitimate investigator or bounty hunter, if you will, we don't generally like to use that word, but if you abuse your rights and privileges, why, you pay for it.
Do you carry a badge? I mean, how do people know that you're not a kidnapper?
Well, you carry papers that are certified by the court that the individual that you're going to arrest has in fact fled that jurisdiction.
And you're allowed to use force in apprehending them?
Whatever force is reasonably necessary.
Can you use deadly force?
If it's reasonably, if he's shooting at you, you're darn sure going to shoot back.
Are people still wanted, dead or alive?
No, yes. Let's say you can get the bond exonerated if the defendant is in fact made dead somehow, but if you make him dead, you darn well better be defending your life or someone else's life when you do it.
Right. Covington, Louisiana. Hi, you're on the air.
Yes, two quick questions.
Okay.
One for Papa and one for something else. It's been a long, expensive time to get through to you. Number one, Papa, what are the legalities in becoming a bounty hunter? Does one just walk into the post office, pick the posters off the wall, and say, I'm going to go get a 357 and scoop after them? And number two, Geraldo, let's get back to those other people and ask them why, with all the trying to shoot down the president out of the White House, how come the media has never made mention of the fact that President F.D. Roosevelt gave 50 warships illegal to England during the war? But let's get to Papa real quick.
Okay, interesting point.
Oh, okay, Michael, which question you want?
Do people just go into the post office and say, I'm going to take down this desperado's picture and go out and get him and cash in?
You can do that, and it has been done, but it certainly is not very desirable. We work mostly for insurance companies or bail bondsmen that have posted bail for a defendant, and the defendant has failed to show in court.
But a freelancer can theoretically just pick up a wanted poster and go out and try and find somebody.
Well, he can, if he has an agreement with the jurisdiction that wants him, that they will pay a reward for him, yes.
Okay. Flint, Michigan, you have a question. I'm going to put the President Roosevelt 50 ships question, table it. The point is well made, though.
Good idea.
Flint, Michigan. You're, I like that. Okay, Papa. Flint, hi, you there?
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Flint, you're on the air.
Yes, my question is, do you use technology sort of like computers, or do you use instinct primarily to track your the people you're after?
You got about 30 seconds to answer that, Papa.
Okay, very, very simply, our work is plain, simple, investigative, hard, beat-in-the-bushes work. We don't use any exotic instruments or any exotic equipment of any. The telephone is probably the most exotic thing that I use. We don't use, we don't have the authority to tap phones or to do things like that.
Generally speaking, what do the police think of you? Are they disdainful of you for what you do? Quickly.
Well, up until the last few years, the police and I worked very, very closely together, and the police and I still do. But there have been so darn many guys that just crawl out from under every rock saying, yesterday I couldn't spell bounty hunter, and today I are one.
Okay, I've got to say goodbye. Papa. Thanks very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Larry King is getting better. Rona Barrett is in this seat on Monday. Thanks for being with us. It's been fun.
Stand by for an exciting business opportunity. Get a pencil and paper ready. Breathtaking, elegant, beautiful beyond description. Typical expressions overheard when people see stained glass overlays, designer glass, and handcrafted entries. Through modern patented processes, this new world designer glass meets or exceeds increasingly stringent building code restrictions. In homes and businesses, its uses are almost unlimited. SGO offers its franchisees a multi-patented process with exclusive license and territorial rights. As a stained glass overlay franchisee, you get the combined knowledge of the corporate staff and its established franchisees, more than 10 years of on-the-job experience, continued training through regional meetings and seminars, and ongoing corporate support. You have the freedom to be your own boss in a highly creative business with universal product acceptance and unlimited growth potential. In addition, SGO is a business which enjoys low material costs, low labor costs, and nominal inventory requirements. With an SGO franchise, you receive a turnkey package, which includes a comprehensive one-week training program covering overlay production techniques, sales and marketing, bookkeeping system, and business operations. If you're looking to pursue the American dream of owning your own business and have $45,000 to invest, call toll-free
1-800-854-0561, extension 896. For California residents, call 1-800-432-7257.
We'll send you a free information packet on becoming a stained glass overlay franchisee. Call now while exclusive territories are still available. Be your own boss. Enjoy rapid growth and financial security.
Call 1-800-854-0561, extension 896 now.
Discover the opportunities of stained glass overlay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen McGuinness of the CNN Weather Center. The major storm that plagued the Southwest all week long is now pushing into the east, just in time for the weekend. Here's a forecast map coming up for Saturday afternoon. That area of low pressure and the troughs and the frontal systems extending from it produce heavy rain all the way from the northeast down across the Tennessee Valley, all the way down across the panhandle of Florida. Behind the weather system, very strong and gusty winds. To the north of that area of low pressure, look for potentially heavy snowfall. The Pacific Northwest may see a few scattered showers. In the southwest, well, the sunshine finally returns. We have these forecast highs around the nation coming up for Saturday afternoon. Miami, 85 degrees. Chicago, rain and 40 degrees. New York City, 46. San Antonio, 66. San Francisco, 63 degrees. Rain in Washington, D.C., and a high of 47. Dallas, scattered rain showers and 56. Atlanta, rainfall and 54. Seattle, 46 degrees. And Denver, sunshine and 40. I'm Karen McGuinness, and all the news, weather, and sports is right here on CNN.
CNN goes one-on-one with Mickey Rooney.
Gee gosh, when you say a guy's been married 8 times, what the heck is that?
Actress Leah Thompson and Jackson Brown.
We have responsibility. We are leaders. We are the most powerful and the wealthiest country on earth. And what we do influences everybody else.
One-on-one, Sunday at 7:10 p.m. Eastern on CNN.
Once there was Dudley Duckling.
The Tale of the Ugly Duckling was written by Hans Christian Andersen. As a boy, he had a learning disability and may have felt like an ugly duckling himself. With help, today's kids can learn to overcome this hidden handicap. Right to the Foundation for Children with Learning Disabilities. We're helping children learn to learn.
And he became a beautiful swan.
This is CNN, a service of Turner Broadcasting System.